Okay, this is Drobnovian Knights.
So
That's gonna be the whole commentary.
okay, so it's probably worth explaining what this actually is. So back in the day, after we kind of exhausted all of the potential and all of the Hypixel adventure maps, I wanted to find another map that was adventure-y and long, but also in the era of Redstone where you could actually like interact with it and manipulate it in game before everything kind of just turned into giant chains of command blocks. And I found this and found some glitches very quickly, but the map is long and bad, so I never did anything with it. And it kind of became a meme for a bunch of years that we would eventually route 100%. And this is that. So immediately, we're in Freeport. Immediately, we're going to get out of bounds in Freeport. And this lets us access two things behind Freeport that are very important. We'll explain what the map actually is as we get going, but I'll explain this glitch first. So, um, throughout the map, there are a bunch of things that happen when you enter certain proximity triggers, like playing custom sounds, because we're on a custom resource pack, spawning mobs, and so on, as well as a couple of various other things like clearing ender pearls from your inventory and stuff like that. Um, Rather than having all of these clocks spread throughout the world, the developers decided to put literally every single like proximity detection command block in spawn in one clock. And um, the Ender Pearl clear is also tied to this clock as well. So if we disable this clock, this lets us have Ender Pearls in our inventory, which are very important for the run. They also have every relevant armor set in the game back here, and we got the most overpowered one here. Um, and so we'll come back to Freeport and why the Freeport clock is so important in a little bit. But um,
Yeah, it's also dialogue. This map's very dialogue driven, and what I mean by that is not the writing of the map, but the way that you interact with the map. A lot of things are dialogue choices. You can just click on them in chat, and so a lot of the time the run is about scrolling up in chat, managing dialogue, managing um, how much of the chat is on screen, and you can, for example, teleports sometimes happen when you um, click on something in chat, and so if you just keep that in your chat history, you can teleport whenever you want. Um, so that's a big feature of this run, and this is just item duplication, pretty self-explanatory trick. We're just duping the currency, the gold nuggets that you can buy everything with, and the food that's gonna last for the rest of the run.
yeah, so coming into the first town here, we're going to be in Drobnovia City. This is the biggest area in the game, has the most quests by far, and we will be visiting this area many times throughout the run um, as we complete the many quests here. Um, on this first visit, basically, so we can talk about how the routing actually works for the game. So the main story, we just talked to the King's Emissary, and that's the first main story quest. And basically, the King, I mean, if we actually listened, he would have said, or read, I guess. He said, you know, Endergon is here. That's bad. You have to kill him, but you have to talk to all the knights first. And so throughout Drobnovia, not Drobnovia City, but Drobnovia is the place the entire map is contained in. There are 8 knights, and you have to talk to each knight in order. So the 10 main story quests are talk to the King's Emissary, do all 8 knights, and then kill Endergon. And so that basically dictates how the beginning, at least, of the route is going to go, because we have to talk to Knight 1 before 2, before 3, and so on. What we're doing right now is actually not any quests at all, or at least not directly. We're just buying items for stuff we're going to need way later on in the game, but we walk past it right at the beginning of the run. So some of these items we're going to hold on to for probably over an hour, but we need to buy them now because it's the best time to do so. Anyway, um, so we're gonna go to every area in the order of the knights that's contained within that area. Each of the main areas has one knight, and then there are also a bunch of side areas. These side areas are not on, have nothing to do with the main story. They only have side quests. And so routing wise, we're just going to go whenever it makes sense and is convenient to go to these places. So this is, we're going to get an ender pearl here and dupe it. Ender pearls are extremely important because they let us move. Nice tick rate. They let us move around the world very quickly, obviously, but they also let us clip through blocks extremely easily in this version. All right, if you want to explain ISG.
Oh yeah, this is a trick called ISG, Infinite Stables Glitch. By advancing redstone ticks by using the statistics menu, you can advance one redstone, like, or not one redstone tick, but one game tick at a time, kind of. And if you do that on if you save and quit on the tick that one of the teleport options appears, this will, for some reason, completely unknown reason, uh, that will trigger the list of warps. That's a list of warps. The stables network is like a teleport network in the map, and that list will come up every time you save and quit, which is really good because some places are really hard to visit, really out of the way without that teleport. So having that available every time you save and quit is really useful. And getting the pearl, uh, that was like the pretty much the whole reason for disabling the clock in Freeport.
Yeah, so this dragon statue here is also extremely lucky that they put this in for some reason, because at the very top there's a chest that contains the most powerful potions in the map. Um, speed 4, jump 4, resistance 3, or does it have
It's
resistance?
it's
So I know
it's
it has strength
level
3, but
4. It's level 4 of speed, strength, regen, and jump boost.
and so we're gonna dupe these, and now we're just gonna have permanent speed 4 on top of the speed boost from our armor.
Yeah,
So you can see the docks, or sorry, the stables warps appearing in chat there.
yeah,
Um,
the pearls and the potions are gonna be constantly duped whenever they run low. Throughout the run. The potions, it's really the pearls. You can kind of just kill another Enderman if you lose your pearls. But you have to make sure that there's one, at least you have at least one of these potions because not just the speed but the jump boost and the strength are really critical to the run. So if you accidentally use up your last potion, it's basically run over.
so yeah, the rest of Drobnovia City 1 is pretty tame, so I guess we can explain kind of the major networks of like getting around the various cities. So we've seen the stables. Stables lets you warp to the districts of Drobnovia City, Red Roof outskirts, Pondworth Spring, and Fordingham Farmsteads. Um, Red Roof Town itself and Drobnovia City are the only two of those that are like major story locations. The others are just side quest areas. There are warp points, like warp portals in every city that warp you to all of the major story locations, plus Ocean Glade for some reason. There are hunting lodges, which we'll see much later in the run. There are airships. There's an airship in Drobnovia City, Red Roof Town, and Stormwall, although we won't be seeing those used in this route. Not because they're necessarily slow, but just because we don't use them. And then there's also, we'll also get to this later on. This is kind of basically the same thing as a warp portal, but we have the Moral Bog teleport scroll, which we'll get into later, but it basically lets us summon a warp portal on demand, more or less, which is extremely useful for routing. So there are a lot of towns in this game. Not all of them have direct, like you can't access all of them directly through any of those networks, but most of them you can, and the ones that you can't are nearby to ones that you can. So we have a lot at our disposal as far as like moving between towns and stuff.
Yeah, and the general format of like, so there's, just to clarify the definition of 100%. So this category completes every quest, all 91 quests in the map. It the definition for completing a quest requires that the quest complete title card displays, and that the corresponding light on the end of the map's scoreboard lights up to indicate that you've finished the quest. So as long as both of those are satisfied, you can do whatever to finish the quest. And this category disallows a few tricks that's not really important to get into, but basically anything that lets you go through floors is not allowed for this category. Just otherwise the route would be pretty way less interesting, I guess, to put it that way. And the general format, like you can see what we're doing right now. The general format of doing those quests is talk to an NPC to accept the quest, do something, or bring them something, and then talk to them again to finish. Most quests follow that pattern. And so a lot of visits to towns, there will be a lot of second visits to towns. So the first visit, accept all the quests, and then come back later after visiting other areas and doing the quests, come back and get the quest completed, the quest finishing thing. So that's right here, just accepting all the quests, talking to all the NPCs. And it's a lot of dialogue management. You can see just opening the chat constantly. And throughout this Drobnovia City 1, the whole time, the king is talking to you. And his dialogue is ridiculously long. He gives you the main quests. So there's, I think it's 81 side quests and 10 mainline quests. And the king is the start of the main knight quests. You have to go do all the knights challenges and get their approval to fight Endergon at the end of the map. And so we're about to leave Drobnovia City 1 and enter North Pine, which is where the first knight is.
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, you have to do all the knights in order, so that kind of forces what we can do or at least what it makes sense to do at the very beginning of the run, or at least for this first segment where we're just trying to go to every town and start all the quests. We could visit the towns out of order, and we actually do, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but it doesn't make sense to do that because the knights won't talk to you until you finish the previous. Well, they will. They'll just tell you to leave if you haven't finished the previous knight's challenge yet. So basically, with the exception of City of the Dead, we're just going to visit all 8 towns in order as the first thing that we do. We will also, because it doesn't matter, there's no story requirement on when we visit some of the smaller towns. After Twin Cons, you can see on the splits, we're going to go to Fordingham, Pondworth, and Ocelot Clearing. Those are all part of the Stables network. And so it doesn't matter when in the story progression we do that. It just makes sense routing-wise to do that there.
Fun fact, the first knight of Drobnovia just gave us a golden apple, which is unintentionally really helpful. Not really helpful. Actually, not really helpful at all for glitched categories. It just saves us having to buy a golden apple from a shop later on. But I just think it's coincidental that you need a golden apple for curing a zombie villager later, and one of the knights just gives you a golden apple. So the first leg of North Pine is just accepting all these quests. These 2 are being finished, so usually when you finish a quest, you get a reward, like some number of golden nuggets and maybe an item. The quest that we are just about to finish is going to give a sword that'll appear in the hotbar, and that sword is really good. It'll be the one we use for the rest of the run. It's got like fire aspect, sharpness, a ton of sharpness, etc., etc. It's just really good. It's gonna 2-shot the final boss, basically. And so it's not really important what exactly the quests are. They're all kind of like all the main quests are just enter some crypts and do something in the crypts, and then come back. Or a lot of them are like that, and that's what we just did. Is um, got the guard captain to allow us into the burial chamber, went down and retrieved a sword from the burial chamber and gave it back to him. And that allows us to get the Knight's Seal of Approval, the first one. And then move on to Alzir City, one of the probably one of the coolest routing parts because of this auto-scrolling cutscene in the town.
Yeah, so this quest over here that he's about to activate, not this one, but this one is a play. I don't know why this is in the map, but the quest is literally just watching a play.
I think
It
it's a cute
teleports
play.
you.
I like it.
All right. Maybe I'm just a hater, but it teleports you into this play. It's just under 4 minutes long, and you just have to sit there and watch it. After the play ends, it teleports you directly outside of the theater. And so, you know, if you're doing something on the other side of the town and you get teleported to the theater, that's obviously bad. So this is cool because we're going to try to do everything in Alzir City that we can while the play is playing. And since we have a bunch of pearls now, that makes doing that a lot easier because we can just pearl everywhere we need to go, and that saves a lot of time.
Yeah, in this run, the first sort of, I guess, snag in the this is like the first completed run of the map. So that's what this is commentary is for. But in this run, not everything is going to be done in Alzir. You can do everything that you need to in Alzir while the play is ticking, without that much time to spare. It fits pretty nicely into that cutscene. Unfortunately, there's a few things that go wrong in this run that I have to come back to Alzir to remedy. But yeah, the play is like ticking, and it's a challenge in Alzir because there's so much dialogue, and you have to hit the right dialogue options for a lot of the quests. Some quests it doesn't matter, but the play, the people talking during the play or in the play makes that really hard because sometimes a dialogue choice will just scroll up randomly. It's kind of a nightmare, and it's a lot of like it's really easy to miss a dialogue choice, just forget to trigger something for a quest. But a lot of the downtime too, trying to spend like pearl downtime and stuff, cleaning up the inventory, throwing stuff away that's unnecessary, selecting dialogue choices while pearling to avoid losing time, optimizations like that you're gonna see a lot. Not that the run's optimal, but just that some thought is being put into that stuff. And this section of Alzir is the market. It's a little bit of a break from the dialogue micromanagement, but we're going to buy 4 things. So those 2 iron blocks, talk to a few people, the hay bales here, a bottle of holy wine, and 5 raw salmon. Some of that stuff is like, especially the raw salmon, will not play a part in the route until like for the next hour and a half, I guess. Basically until the last few splits. Just while we're here and the auto-scrolling cutscene is going, we might as well buy that stuff that is required for other quests. And this part,
as we're
go for it.
Okay, I was just gonna say, as we're closing in on the end of Alzir City 1, it might be worth explaining like why. So Twin Ponds is the next place we're gonna go to, and that's actually where the Night 4 is. And so City of the Dead is where Night 3 is. This is a forced consequence of us disabling the Freeport clock at the beginning of the game. So, as I said, the Freeport clock does a lot of things, but most of what it does is proximity-based events, like spawning mobs when you enter certain areas. And the third night, you have to just go into a castle and kill a guy, but the guy doesn't spawn unless the Freeport clock is enabled. So we actually can't do night 3 yet, unless we were to go back to Freeport and turn the clock on. But we don't want to have to go back to Freeport over and over again every single time we need the clock to be enabled to do something. So basically, like a key routing decision is just like do as much as we possibly can with the Freeport clock off, go back to Freeport, do the smallest amount of stuff that we can while still making progress with the Freeport clock on, and then turn it back off again, and so on, and repeat until we're done.
Yeah, there's a quick detour here back to Drobnovia City. Because during Drobnovia City, I forgot to finish the dialogue with the postal manager. And I need this guy for... there's someone in Alzir that needs a letter delivered. And we're going to get the delivery receipt from him. But I didn't have the letter, so I had to go back to Drobnovia City. But those, instead of delivering all 6 that this guy... all 6 of the letters that this guy wants us to deliver... we're just going to deliver one of them and then duplicate the delivery receipt that comes with it, which is the only thing that gets checked for by the quest. So that's something we'll do a few times, is dupe an item that we would normally have to get multiple times. And the first sequence break, right, is coming up. I guess it's a type of skip you'll see a lot throughout the run. So it might be worth explaining what's going on. We're headed to Twin Ponds now after Alzir City. After I remember to go trade with the guy in his house. And headed to Twin Ponds, where we could warp to Twin Ponds. Like, that's one of the main areas, so it does have a warp option on the main portal. But it would end up being worse to do that because we haven't done the third night, like he just said, because we can't because of the Freeport clock. So when we go to Twin Ponds to do the 4th night, we need to trick the map into thinking that we're supposed to be there. And this is the first time that, like, Pearl glitches will come into play, I think. When you Pearl repeatedly, you will gain... when you Pearl into, like, a wall or ceiling repeatedly, you will gain height. You'll just go through the ceiling. And you can also kind of do this for walls. It's a little weirder, but that'll happen a lot too. But basically, if we can get underneath the redstone where a quest, the quest logic occurs, then we can manipulate that redstone using wooden buttons that were put there by the developers. And we can use that to manipulate the scoreboard values that internally keep track of your progress on certain quests. And so for the 4th night, we're going to set that to a certain value that will basically trick the map into thinking that we've done what the knight wants us to, and we need to get rewarded. So we can't just, if we set that to 1 higher, the scoreboard value 1 more, the knight would say basically, hey, thanks for doing this. You need to go to the next night now. So we need to go to the scoreboard value before, so that the knight says, okay, you've completed my thing. Great job. Here's your reward. And it'll give you the quest complete message, because remember, that's part of the 100% definition.
These caves, you're never supposed to be able to get into casually. I mean, you can, but there's no reason to ever come down here. These are just part of the map.
Yeah, you can't really get out. You can't really get out, but you can easily fall in, which is a really weird decision.
Yeah. But these are really helpful for getting underneath the redstone and letting us throw pearls into the ceiling to get inside. And so you'll be seeing us running through caves quite a bit throughout the run. An interesting quirk of the way the night story progression works is that we're actually going to be doing this exact same thing again later. And the reason is when you complete a night, it sets your internal, like, scoreboard value for the following night to 1. So when you complete night 1, it sets your score for night 2 to 1, so that way when you talk to him, he actually listens to you instead of telling you to leave. So we just did night 4, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna go to City of the Dead much later to do night 3. But after we do night 3, it's gonna set our score for night 4 back down to 1. So we're gonna have to do that exact same thing again. But that time we're gonna just increment the button or increment our scoreboard value all the way up to where the game thinks that we're done with the quest. Because if we were to talk to the 4th night again at that point, he would set our score for 5 back down to 1, and we'd have to go do every other night all over again. So we will be doing that again, although a slightly different redstone manipulation at the end of that.
Yeah, but that pattern of pearl into some redstone like that, change the value with the button, and then go talk to the NPC or do something else. Really common pattern to skip quests that are otherwise slower to do. Not all quests that can be skipped are faster to be skipped, like that. But any time where it's faster to do that, obviously, and you can even get into the redstone like that. We're going to be doing that, basically the same sort of rinse and repeat thing that you just saw. So we just did Twin Ponds and talked to the knight to get that quest complete after fiddling with the redstone. This is sort of a sub area, I guess, of Twin Ponds, or like a neighboring area called Treacherous Marsh. There's only 2 quests here. 2.5, I guess. And unfortunately, I believe we only have to come back here for 1 reason later, which is a little unfortunate, because if we could skip this, that other quest, the first guy I talked to in the marsh, then it'd save time elsewhere, but it would also mean that we wouldn't have to come back to Treacherous Marsh just to talk to him again. So the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to take a trip to all of the parts of the stables network. We're going to go to Fordingham. We're going to go to Pondworth Spring, and then Red Roof Town. We're going to use one of the warps to get into Red Roof Town.
Yeah, so Pondworth and Ocelot Clearing are part of a small subset of areas that are entirely self-contained. They require no revisits, and all the quests within them can be done like purely on your first visit. So that's pretty cool. But Fordingham, on the other hand, so we're actually this is actually part of the triangle. Fordingham is right next to the triangle. So this mansion that we just clipped into is part of a quest there. But it's on the opposite side of town from every other quest in the triangle. So we're actually going to do this skip here because the Fordingham Moor puts us right next to it.
Yeah, there's 2 reasons that being able to skip this quest is really lucky. 2 reasons. One, it gives you the best in slot boots for speed. So that's obviously really good to obtain early. Just get your movement speed up for the rest of the run. And then it's also one of the longest quests when you don't skip it. It's up there in terms of length. So really good that we can just skip that on our visit to Fordingham and get these boots and skip one of the longest. The actual longest quest in the game is also skippable, thankfully. So
routing Fordingham is pretty trivial because there are 4 quests that are just straight in a line. And so we're going to go talk to everybody straight in a line and then come back later on once we've talked to the other people and just talk to everybody straight in a line again. The cool thing about having access to warps on demand means that we can do some cool stuff. So at the end of this section here, this last guy we're going to talk to over here after we buy some stuff, he's going to tell us to go into a mine and kill this mini boss, and then come back to him with proof of the kill. But since we already have to come back to Fordingham anyway for the other 3 quests, because we have to go like talk to other people or get items or something, since we're already coming back here, we're actually just going to warp out of the mine to Pondworth Spring instead of climbing all the way back out and talking to him. So there's a lot of stuff like that, especially once we get the Moral Bog teleport book. There will be a lot of stuff like that where we just like get really lost in some area and then just like, all right, time to leave, and then we can just warp to the next area we need to go to if we're already going to come back to that area for some other reason later on.
Yeah, for this one in particular and a few others, it actually is very convenient that the infinite stables glitch is possible. Again, a bizarre glitch that doesn't seem to work for any other similar redstone. It's just a super weird glitch. That see you can they just appeared and I can warp there in the chat. It's really helpful there because you can store the um, portals by just triggering them and then leaving them in your chat history. But because you're talking to so many NPCs, some areas you can't actually keep those in your chat history the whole time. So it's really useful that the infinite stables glitch is possible. And that guy, like John was talking about, Pondworth is self-contained, which means you just come here, talk to that guy to accept the quest, talk to him again to finish the quest. But he actually does require that you leave Pondworth Springs. You have to go to Drobnovia City to buy some saplings. But we did that at the beginning, so some forethought in the routing there that allows us to visit the area only once. And most of the time when we can do that, we do. When we can do something earlier so that we only have to visit an area once or cut out a visit to an area, that's obviously going to be faster usually. And so just did another redstone skip there for this, the kennel quest. That's actually self-contained anyway, so even if we couldn't skip it, we wouldn't have to come back to Ocelot clearing a second time. And this is, we're going to buy some stuff here for Red Roof Town and Winnis. So for a little later in the run. And there's...
You'll notice that before
Yeah,
he came over here, he threw a pearl and then lowered his render distance.
Yeah.
This pearl hanging is an extremely useful thing for when you need to backtrack, and obviously backtracking is slow. So if you just throw a pearl and then unload the pearl, it will remain in the air exactly where it unloaded, and then you just reload the chunks, and then you'll immediately teleport to wherever the pearl lands.
It's a little less trivial than it might seem to unload pearl in new versions. So this is a technique that became really popular for vanilla speedruns in new versions, and it's really trivial to do. You just lower your render distance after throwing a pearl, basically, in those versions. But in this version, 1.8, you have to be like far enough away from the pearl as well and unload the chunk, and it's super finicky and weird. Sometimes it doesn't work. I think there's an instance later where it just doesn't work a couple times. So, but that's basically something that was really useful in vanilla speedruns, and then it ends up being really useful for avoiding backtracking in custom maps, or at least this custom map. And the same sort of technique applies as well to redstone. So sometimes you will lower or raise your render distance to, you would raise it to maybe go to another area while keeping some redstone loaded to continue with a cutscene or dialogue or something. So you can overlap those two things, or you can lower the render distance to avoid redstone ticking. Like if there's a teleport that you need to avoid for a while, you lower your render distance and manipulate which stuff is loaded, which cutscenes are loaded. So that's the end of the stables segment. Yeah, we're going to Red Roof Town now, which there's some stuff in the outskirts, which is where the stables are, that we're going to take care of first. This melon delivery for Fordingham quests. And then going into Red Roof proper, which is, along with Alzir City 1, is probably one of the most complex bursts of, I don't know what you'd say, bursts of like dialogue. There's a lot of stuff going on in a short amount of time. A lot of dialogue management.
You may also have noticed when he was trading with those villagers that his inventory is getting dangerously full. We just loaded up on quest items, and we don't really have a good spot to put any of them. Thankfully, in a place just near here called Wisp Village, there is an ender chest. There are only what 7 ender chests in the map?
In the entire map, there's like 4 places in Drobnovia City and then like 3 elsewhere. So it's very rare that you come across an ender chest.
Yeah, so this is a very convenient time for Red Roof Town to happen in the route because he's gonna want to put some stuff away here soon. Although it's kind of annoying because even though we do have these ender chests, it's not always convenient to access them again in the future. So we don't really get to put that much stuff away in the ender chests, but just enough that our inventory won't be overflowing with quest items because it's getting dangerously full now. So yeah, Red Roof Town 1 is super cool.
The first thing you do in Red Roof Town is spawn this zombie villager that the husband needs to be cured because he was bitten by a zombie or something. So that's just a normal vanilla like curing a zombie villager with a potion of weakness that we just bought and a golden apple that we got from the knight in North Pine. So it's really funny how we use that golden apple for like completely unintended purpose. This is for a quest in Alzir. So we just cover a lot of bases. Like it's just random. Like this is for Alzir. That was for that required stuff from Ocelot Clearing and North Pine, stuff like that. And that zombie villager getting cured, it just takes like a random amount of time. Like in vanilla Minecraft, that just takes some amount of ticks for the zombie villager to be cured. And the way the map checks for that husband being cured is that one of the clock elements in like one of the command blocks in Freeport that's on that clock repeatedly checks for a villager there. And right now it's a zombie villager, so that's not triggering. When he does get cured, he'll become a regular villager, and it'll trigger the end of that quest. But that requires the clock in Freeport to be enabled. And so we're going to have to come back here to actually finish curing the zombie villager. But we're overlapping sort of all this stuff with just waiting for that zombie villager to get cured. This is sort of a weird... I think this might be one of the first times that we do like a wall clip using the pearls. So earlier we got into some redstone by clipping upwards through ceilings using pearls. This one works a little differently. We're going... when you throw a pearl, you'll get clipped a little to the right. And we're going to use that to get into this redstone. This one's really finicky. I'm not exactly sure why it's so finicky, but there we go. Get into the redstone.
It's worth noting that clips like that in the water behave differently than clips not in water if you don't have Depth Strider. If you try doing those clips without the armor set that we have on right now, I mean, it just wouldn't work. But Depth Strider canceling the slowness that you get from swimming in water makes those clips possible.
Yeah, so I think the inventory is actually full right now. And so really soon we're going to come up on that ender chest. We're just dropping stuff off that we got earlier. The holy wine and the hymns. Like one of the very first things we did in Drobnovia City was buy those hymns. And that's for this guy in Red Roof Town. This is part of the night, the main night quest for, this is the 5th night of Drobnovia in Red Roof Town. You have to like blow up these infested crypts or something like that. They all have to deal with a crypt, I think. Most of the night quests, you just enter a crypt and do something.
So that's, yeah, this town has yet another thing where we need the Freeport clock enabled, but it doesn't make sense to go back and do that yet because there's still so much that can be done without it. So, and we're not going to go back to Freeport for a while still. So, the list of things will just keep piling up until we actually go back, and then we'll just do all of them in one go and then turn the clock back off.
So that's basically the end of Red Roof Town. I think. I don't think anything was missed in this run. So leaving Red Roof Town right here and going to Slate Estate. This is one of the areas that requires 3 visits throughout the run. Most only require 2. You know, talk to an NPC, then come back after you've done something and finish the quest. A few areas require multiple visits because just for whatever reason, you know, this quest in particular has 2 different sections to it. So we just have to come back here multiple times to do that. So this is the first of those visits. This guy needs his clothing or something. He has orders for his clothing, and we need to take those orders to the shop.
Yep. And then over here is Wisp Village. We'll be here twice because one of these quests requires Freeport to complete, but we will start it here as is tradition with the first visit to every area. But these other 2 quests here will just be running back and forth because we bought the items for these guys. One of them wants stuff from Red Roof Outskirts, and the other wants stuff that we bought right at the beginning of the run in Drobnovian City Docks District. So we'll just be running back and forth because an annoying thing that this map also does a lot, even though every quest is a fetch quest, but also many of the quests require you to go get an item, come back, and then they're like, oh wait, actually I want something else too, and then you have to go and come back. So one of these quests, the guy who wants this fishing equipment quest, both of the items that he wants are from the exact same NPC in the Docks District in Drobnovia City, but he doesn't tell you that until you come back with the first item that he actually needs another one. But thankfully, since these guys both need 2 items, we can just run back and forth, triggering their dialogue until they're done.
Yeah, not only does Wisp Village have a well-timed ender chest here that we're coming up on, you also get rid of 4 of your items for these quests, and you end up getting 1 for another quest. So ultimately, you lose 3 items and then get to store your stuff in an ender chest. So it's Wisp Village is just pretty good for your inventory space. And then, yeah, this is basically just inventory management going up here for the ender chest. Finishing this guy's dialogue to accept a quest. And then we're going to leave for Hot Springs. And Hot Springs is cool because we're going to get a teleport book there that is really useful.
Yeah, Hot Springs is adjacent, much like Twin Ponds and Treacherous Marsh. Hot Springs is adjacent to a place called Frost Cove. Although this place is actually part of the what was it, 6th night now. Frost Cove is I mean we skip it, but the 6th night requires you to go there and talk to a bunch of people. So Frost Cove is actually the first place we're going to go to, and we can skip every quest there. And then we're actually going to do Hot Springs proper. And it's a pretty standard, just, go around, activate everything, and skip stuff. But yeah, the book Adam mentioned, the Moral Bog teleport scroll, is very powerful. And it's not really, it wouldn't really be super important that we got it like much earlier in the run, because it's not like we really need like this main warp portal on demand all the time. But it will be much more useful later on. Moral Bog itself is also an area with a quest, so we need to visit it at some point anyway.
This is a quick revisit to North Pine. This is where I realized that I'm missing a library book. So I went to North Pine. It wasn't her book. It ended up being this guy's book. This was super weird because I definitely did this quest. You talk to this guy, he summons a bodyguard, and you kill it, and he's like, "Oh my God, okay, I'll give you the library book." Um, because you're fetching overdue library books for the librarian in Drobnovia City. And if you watch it back, I did kill this guy, uh, right here, killed him, and this dialogue plays, and he gives you the book. That dialogue just didn't trigger earlier, so had to revisit Alzir here, and then go to Hot Springs.
So Hot Springs is near several other places that we're going to be visiting that have like no direct access. There's the Herbalist. We started his quest in Drobnovia City 1. He's a guy who just lives out in the middle of nowhere, and the fastest way to get to him is by pearling over the mountains outside of Hot Springs. And there's also the Hunting Lodge, which is part of a side quest. We're not actually going to do it on this visit to Hot Springs. It's very far out of the way, and it's effectively its own like area. Considering it part of Hot Springs is like it's so far out of the way that it doesn't really make sense, but it is technically the Hot Springs Hunting Lodge. So yeah, we'll be back to Hot Springs much later to do that after another visit to Hot Springs. So this is the this inside this house here is where the forget his name.
The village captain or something, village chief, I think.
Yes, the village chief. So this is the guy that you have to talk to for night 6. He says go out and talk to this guy, and then you go into Frost Cove, which is down the mountain. But we're actually like we're doing the night 6 quest right now, but we haven't talked to night 6 yet. So that was manipulating the story progression for night 6. Because there's no way to get into the redstone for the 6th night directly, but thankfully that guy we can manipulate it with his redstone. And then these 2 quests here are the only quests in Frost Cove. These are just side quests, and we can skip both of them as well.
Really important pearl hang here, which is why the render distance is so low. Because climbing back up, like getting back up the mountain, even with pearls, is kind of slow, especially since you end up inside someone's house at the end of Frost Cove, like on the other side of the island. So it would be kind of a disaster to get out of Frost Cove without a pearl.
This is another one of these wall clip ones. There are some like this where you actually have to change the angle that you're clipping through the wall in, like mid clip, because it's not really a good spot to like directly pearl towards the column. So you kind of just clip into a corner and then adjust your angle as you go through. And now we're just gonna load the pearl and warp back to Frost Cove, or like the outskirts of Frost Cove, I guess, and just run back. And we've done everything we need to do there, and we aren't coming back to Frost Cove. And this is we're just gonna go talk to Knight 6 now because we incremented the dialogue under the village chief, and so the knight is gonna think that we're done, and he will give us his seal of approval, and we can go on to Knight 7 in the triangle. But we have to actually do Hot Springs now.
Just because there's nothing else to talk about, the way this dupe works, or I don't know, like the technical of why it works, but you pause buffer by pressing back to game and then escape quickly to go ideally 1 tick at a time. And then on the tick that the items get picked up, you save and quit and come back. You will duplicate the items, and then you'll keep getting that amount of the item if you keep saving and quitting like on the tick, you make the game paused on the first tick by tapping out, and then so you save and quit on the first tick that the world is loaded, and you can keep getting the same amount of stuff um, over and over again without having to redupe, just by saving and quitting multiple times. Although it's very finicky and requires like a specific render distance. But what we just picked up was the Moral Bog teleport we were talking about. Really useful, and you'll see it. I mean, you'll see the warp to Moral Bog a lot throughout the run. Anytime that we need a, a portal, basically.
The technical term for that is called bog warping, which
Yeah,
we're very
that's
proud
the
of.
scientific
Yeah.
nomenclature. This quest is just donating. You just, yes, I would like to donate 5 nuggets, and then the quest is over. But it's a prereq for doing this quest, so you have to wait for that to be done.
Speaking of money, like we duped the Drobnovian Nuggets at the very beginning of the run, and that's just because we had to buy a lot of stuff at the very beginning, and some of it was very expensive. We actually never duped money ever again throughout the run, and in fact, at some points, Adam is going to throw money away.
I'm constantly throwing out like stacks of gold nuggets. There's
Yeah,
so much. You get so
so
much.
throughout the run, and nothing costs like anything in this map. So the dupe at the very beginning is kind of
It's
an outlier as far
yeah.
as the amount of money you need.
You get a bunch of stuff at the start, but also one thing costs 2 stacks of gold nuggets at the start in Drobnovia City 1. So that it's just you need to like get a ton of gold nuggets right at the start, and then you like never need, you're overflowing with gold for the rest of the run.
So that was our first bog warp.
That was yeah,
Congratulations.
that was the first one.
And the only reason we did that is, I mean, a pearl hang would more or less have accomplished the same thing. They're just faster to get back to this spot in Hot Springs. And now we're going to go to the herbalist. So there's a quest in Drobnovia City where you have to get some ingredients for this alchemist, and the ingredients are held by the herbalist who lives in the middle of nowhere.
One of the
And talking
ingredients
to the
is
herbalist is also a quest for some reason,
yeah.
even though this is part of another side quest. Just talking to him at all is a side quest.
Yeah, so one of the ingredients comes from this guy, and the other ingredient just bought from the temple in Hot Springs. Another instance, I'm gonna dupe this birthday invite. That is for someone. There's someone in Drobnovia City that you give a birthday invite to, and there's 4 birthday invites. And I'm just failed to dupe a lot here. But if you dupe the birthday invite, you can just trade, because they're just villager trades. They work like vanilla villager trades. Um, you can just dupe the thing that you're selling over and over, and you'll get many of the what do you call the many of the if you dupe these birthday invites, you can sell many of them to one guy to get many RSVPs, and you need 4 RSVPs for the quest. So it's a similar thing to the delivery receipts. Just instead of duping the delivery receipts, just duping the birthday invites.
All right, so now we're in the triangle, and this is night 7. So we're flying through the main story quests, although we are a little under halfway through the map. So as you can imagine, revisits and side areas are going to take up a lot of the rest of the run.
And mistakes.
Yes. Again, the triangle one is a pretty standard visit. We've seen this many times where we just go and talk to people. There is a pretty cool skip on the way out of the triangle, but that's about all this area has to offer.
Yeah, you can also, you can do all of this. Like you can do everything that you need to while one guy is talking. So you just go talk to him first, and then do everything else. I don't know why he takes so long to talk. He wants a crown from Alzir, and it was one of the first things we did in Alzir was go and get that crown underground right before the play started. And so you just talk to him again to give the crown. And then this basically functionally skips the night quest. You're not supposed to get in here, but we have pearls, and then you can just each of these buttons starts the next wave of the fight, and you have to get through 4 waves normally, but you can just press the button over and over again.
We gotta be quiet while this sound plays. This is a rare occasion. This is the only time this sound plays in the entire map.
It's a really good custom sound. I mean, that's just one of the best
production
things.
Value right there.
One of the best things to grace my ears. So
okay,
this is a cool skip, yeah.
Yeah, we're about to go to Stormwall, but on the way, there's someone's house that we are going to clip into. This is a pretty weird clip where we're going to keep like dropping down into the floor here and then like continue purling along diagonally through these blocks. It's a pretty strange clip, but this lets us skip entering the crypts that are also near the triangle. Someone's trapped in the crypt, and it's Olivia Wolf. But she's actually in her house the whole time, so if you're able to get in there, you can talk to her.
Yeah, there's 2 quests. That one where you find Olivia in the crypts, and then you have to talk to her in her house again to get the reward. But that's what we just did. We went straight to the house. And there's another quest that requires you to go into those same crypts. And we ended up also being able to skip that one, so we never have to visit that, which would be really slow because you actually can't. It's really bulletproof. Like you can't get in there as far as we have tried without starting that other quest. And so you'd have to go there, start the quest, come back to here, and go into the crypts, do those things, and then go back. Fortunately, we can skip both of the quests that are down there.
So we're in Stormwall now. This guy wants 4 deliveries. And so a thing that happens in pretty much every one of those redstone rooms that you've seen a million times now is all of the quest items that you need for the quest are also available with a button on the wall. So you know, even if talking to the NPC, like even if they require items from you, you can almost always get them underneath the quest where the redstone is. A key exception actually being night 3. It's possible to skip, like get into the redstone, but we can't get the quest item that we need down there. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but that's why we can't do City of the Dead in one go.
It's weird. It's weird because the Prowling Sammy head for one of the quests in Drobnovia City, you're supposed to kill a guy and get a head, but you can just get it from a button, but not the same for the night 3. And an interesting thing, this is all just we have items for these guys. We just need to talk to them. We're going back and forth to overlap travel time with their dialogue, and then giving each of them the items they need. We can actually do Stormwall in one trip. Because we've already loaded up on all the items that these guys need, including saving a lot of time by the Mine Foreman in Stormwall here requires you to go into the mines and retrieve a bar of mithril from the mines. And it's not like one of the longest quests, but it does take a while. And it ends up being really cool that mithril is actually a quest reward for a few other quests in the game, and so because we already did. Um, oh, I want to say it's the Cuthbert quest in Alzir.
It's
You get
the Barnaby Stanhope in Wisp
yeah,
Village.
the Wisp Village. Sorry. So in Wisp Village, we got a Mithril as a quest reward, and so we don't have to do that quest at all because it's the same item that you need to get in the mines. I have no clue what I'm checking for here, but this is another bog warp. If you didn't get to see it the other time. Oh, but I need the docks.
Yeah, so this is the airship that he just ran underneath right now. Um, oh, did
I'm
you walk
traveling.
over?
Yeah. I forget what something went wrong.
Okay, this is not part of the route, but this is the airship travel system.
I left
So yeah,
Stormwall too early, and I didn't give the guy the Kanos insurance document. So I ended up leaving Freeport, realized that, and then had to go to Drobnovia City Docks District, which is the closest airship, buy a ticket, and travel with the airship, which is the only warp to Stormwall. Quick thinking.
yeah, that was impressive actually. Um, the only time, like, I can't imagine that the airships will ever be used in a 100% route, just because it just makes so much sense to go to Stormwall after the triangle, especially because that one guy is like right there on the outside of town. Um, and obviously you can get to Red Roof and Drobnovia City a million ways, so I don't really see the airships being useful ever, but maybe they will be someday. So this is Ocean Glade. This is the only area that you can get to through the main warp that doesn't have a knight. And there are 2 quests here, and some other errands we have to run.
It's going really well.
Yeah, this is good.
But this is just another like pearl climb up into some redstone. There's 2 of these that are in the same tunnel system here in Ocean Glade, under Ocean Glade. So I'm gonna go back down there after this and do the same for another quest. But you end up being able to do Ocean Glade in one visit again because of these skips in the redstone. And there's also one other reason to come to Ocean Glade. That's for a quest in Red Roof. But then we'll be warping out of here and headed to City of the Dead for the first time.
We aren't actually going to do the 3rd night on our first visit to City of the Dead. The main reason is that the next time we're in City of the Dead, we're not going to have pearls because they're going to be cleared because the Freeport clock will be on because we need to do night 3. But having pearls lets us skip the other quest in City of the Dead, which takes a very long time to do. So we want to be able to skip that. And also, the nearby areas are that you can't access through any warp points. City of the Dead is the closest location to both Savannah Refuge and Crossroads. So, except maybe Awareness is faster to get to Crossroads. But either way, we want to have pearls for both of those areas as well. So we're going to do City of the Dead, just do the side quest in City of the Dead, and then go to those 2 areas. And then finally, we're going to go to Freeport, and we will have the first section of the run with no Ender Pearls.
So this is the other purpose of Ocean Glade, is to enter the Clan Wolf house and get the painting for Jessica Wheelwright in Red Roof Town. It's really dumb that I know all the like NPC names.
Yeah, it's a little bad.
Bog warping again. All right,
All right,
finally.
this is a cool skip. This is another one where you got to go into the corner and then like readjust your angle.
Yeah, so getting into the corner, clipping into the corner, I throw 5 pearls and then rotate by 90 degrees to basically like reverse my direction. Or not reverse, but you know what I mean. And get into that hole there. And this skips a really cumbersome quest that it's just terrible to do. Requires Freeport to be enabled for a part of it. It requires 3 visits to City of the Dead, so we obviously are glad that we can skip that. And requires you to do something extra in Alzir City. So it's all just ends up being really good that you can skip that. And then leaving City of the Dead after finishing that quest to go to Savannah Refuge for the first time.
Savannah Refuge is actually where King Azun is at the end of the game. So we'll be back here in about an hour to do Refuge 2. But
yeah, you
we
aren't.
need to start some of these side quests now. So that's why we're coming here.
Yeah, you aren't supposed to be in Savannah Refuge right now, as far as I know, because there's a gate that won't open unless you're at the end of the map, basically. Like you've done all the nights. But since we have pearls and you can get jump boost fairly trivially uh, throughout the map, there's a few parts I think that have jump boost potions. Um, like we didn't glitch in the jump boosts, but you can get into areas that you're not supposed to be able to. So I'm not sure why they put jump boost potions anywhere. But so this mine is super. This is like the Fordingham mine, where we go way into the mine and then just warp out because we're done anyway. Going back to City of the Dead to go to Crossroads. And
Yep. So there are 2 quests here. One we skip, and the other is so trivial that we don't skip it.
the other is probably the shortest quest in the game.
Um,
This is where the we used the hay bales earlier. I'm trying to think what are the other. We used the hay bales from the Alzir market earlier. This is going to be the iron blocks. We used the holy wine, and then in like 40 minutes or something, we'll finally use the raw salmon, and that'll be all the Alzir market stuff that we bought earlier. This quest takes forever too. You have to run like all way down the road to a remote location to do a cutscene, and then there's a pretty cool optimization with the render distance you can do, but turns out you can just come here with pearls and skip it. Skip the whole quest, which is a lot faster. And then it's sort of interesting how Crossroads will lead into Winnis. You have to ride a horse from Crossroads into Winnis for a Winnis quest. And that'll be sort of a... It would be a little more poetic if we could just do... It'd be a lot cooler if we could just do Winnis then. You know, dismount the horse and go do Winnis. But maybe we could. I'll keep that in my mind for a route change.
The reason that we don't is because checking for the horse being in the stable that we're about to ride it into requires Freeport.
Yeah.
So we're gonna ride the horse into the spot just because we're already here in Crossroads. And we're gonna ride the horse. I keep saying we as if I'm playing. Adam's gonna ride the horse over to Winnis and dismounts it in the stable. And then we're gonna leave. We'll be right back to Winnis once we have Freeport enabled. But yeah, this is all we're gonna do right now.
So what I was saying is wrong. You have to.
And dismounting the horse, like there's a guy that you have to talk to, and he tells you to go to Crossroads to get his horse. But if you put the horse in there without talking to him for the first time, it'll advance your story like progression number, your scoreboard, to having done the quest. So you just need to talk to him one time, and he'll say thanks for bringing the horse back or whatever. So this is Moral Bog. This is the only quest here. It's right outside the warp, and this is all we need to do here. And now we're going to go back to Freeport. And you're not supposed to be able to go back to Freeport. I mean, there's nothing technically stopping you from swimming all the way to Freeport like we're about to do. Yeah, but there's no intended reason that you're supposed to go back to Freeport. The only reason we're going back is to manipulate the redstone. Thankfully, we only have to do this once because there are beds in Freeport.
And
And
because
the
it's
reason that we,
permanently nighttime.
yes, um, but the reason that we didn't sleep in a bed the first time is because the game the game never sets your spawn point. There are signs all over the map that are like right click here to like right click to set
Yeah.
your spawn here, but there is one spawn point like right when you start the game after you get off the ship in Drobnovian City docks. It sets your spawn there, so we can't sleep in the bed on the first time, and that requires us to swim here for like a minute. But
It doesn't even take a minute, I don't think. But all the other spawn point triggers are stuff that we skip. Um, um, I actually think the arena, like my spawn point is the arena right now. I bet. I believe that's a spawn point.
I think
Um,
there's one for somewhere
there,
along the Endergon quest too,
there.
which we also skip.
Oh, there might be, and there's one that I can think of in the Elven challenge, the Spider challenge in the Elven challenge. But there aren't many, and we just skip all of them. So the frame rate is just really low in uh, all this redstone, all the entities and stuff. The frame rate is just terrible. So that's why I'm falling and like having trouble moving. But so storing the ender pearls in the furnaces here, uh, in order to retrieve them after we re-disable the clock. Um, But yeah, now the clock is enabled. We just put an item in it, and the hoppers are doing their thing. And so now we have no pearls, and all of the checks at Freeport are enabled. So we're just basically without pearls. We're gonna go on one giant like we're just gonna run a bunch of errands. Anything that we can do, uh, and need to do with Freeport enabled, um, just we're gonna do that right now. Um, and it starts with City of the Dead. Again, you need Freeport enabled for the enemy in the night quest. And this
You also
is
notice that
mm,
he save and quit there, but the infinite stables glitch dropped for some reason.
yeah, revisiting Freeport, which is where the stables redstone logic occurs. Which it spawn chunks. I don't know if we mentioned that, so it's always loaded. That's why that stuff's all there because it'll always be loaded. Um, for some reason, visiting Freeport sometimes disables the glitch, and it's not a huge deal. The re Getting the stables warps again are just a little bit out of the way, relatively speaking. Um, but I ended up wasting some time trying to re-enable it, but for some reason it just doesn't work anymore. So very bizarre glitch, just terrible, terrible glitch.
Okay, so that's City of the Dead done, and now we're gonna do Winnis.
Right.
Um,
It's important to remember, just keep it in the back of your mind that right now we are no longer finished with night 4. The scoreboard value for night 4 is back to 1, which means night 4 is expecting us. And if we went to the end of the map right now and saw the quest scoreboard, it would not light up the lamp for night 4. So eventually we will go back and redo that once we have pearls.
so we're gonna talk to everybody in Winnis. We're gonna come back to Winnis later for a couple of reasons. Um, the eighth night has you. The only eighth night, or the eighth night is one of I think probably the only night with like any production value. Um,
It's a good
it
quest.
has you do yeah, it's like actually a fun quest casually. It has you do the Elven challenge, which is like a long parkour sequence, and then you get to pick two different challenges where you have to do stuff. Um, and it's pretty long. And we can skip a considerable amount of it with ender pearls. So we're gonna get like advance the eighth knight's dialogue until he's about to teleport us, and then we're gonna leave Winnis, and then we'll teleport into the Elven challenge much later on, and just have that be its own segment. Because the Elven challenge takes place vaguely near Drobnovia City, there's a town, there's like Sandcliff in between Drobnovia City and where the Elven Challenge happens, which is also sort of near like Savannah Refuge and stuff. So we're gonna take the Elven Challenge much later and go into that section. And that'll be the only thing that we do. So it's not actually a Winnis revisit later. But anyway, we're in Drob 2, so we're just gonna run a bunch of errands that require Freeport now.
That was also the last payoff from Ocelot clearing, was the Winnis quest with the leaves. So Ocelot clearing, the what do you call it? The I don't know what the expression I'm looking for here is, but the duplicated. I'm gonna return the duplicated delivery receipts to the postal manager. We didn't deliver all the letters, but because we have 6 delivery receipts, it thinks we did. And so there's a second part to this quest as well, which is you get the parcels rather than the letters, and you have to deliver 4 of those. So I ended up having 4 delivery receipts, or 10 delivery receipts in total. And that was for 6 letters and 4 parcels for the postal manager quest. Here's where I realized that I no longer have ISG, and I'm trying to get it again, but you'll see that it just doesn't. I'm doing the same thing that I did earlier. It just doesn't work, so it's just a finicky glitch. So on the tick that I can see the residential district warp, saving and quitting, which is what I did earlier. It certainly looks like that. What you're seeing is what happens if you get it. That the list kind of appears, and it kind of appears 1.5 times like that. So I thought that I had stables stored like that, but it ends up like not really working for some reason. I don't know if this quest is even worth talking about, but it features a zoo. And this is what I was talking about with Freeport, checking for the cured villager, and so now we can just go and talk to this person to get the reward. Talk to Rebecca Porter to give her the gold bar from Wisp Village, and that's gonna do it for Red. I think those are the only 2 things in Red Roof 2.
Yeah. And then we can go to Jessica Wheelwright, who was name dropped earlier, and give her the Clan Wolf painting. And then we're gonna go to gonna trade for some clothes again.
This is the first. I think this is the first time that we're trading for clothes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we gotta trade. Yeah, this is the first time. And you can't just trade for every piece of clothing he needs all at once, because it's another one of those quests where you have to like revisit to get the next thing. But the thing you have to trade with, he doesn't give you until you've traded with the previous thing. Like, it's not like you just need to go talk to someone. It's an actual villager trade, which is very annoying.
Yeah, and I just increased the render distance up to like 24. That was to load Winnis, and when I loaded Winnis, the Knights dialogue from earlier that we left hanging played again, and I'm going to use that to get the Elven Challenge warp once these errands are done. So just re-triggering that, because Red Roof is actually kind of close to Winnis, so.
Yeah, so like those are the only splits where we have the Freeport clock on for this section. City of the Dead 2, Winnis 1, Drob 2, and Red Roof Town 2. We're about to the fastest way to get back anytime we need to go back to Freeport. One of the fastest ways is just taking all of your armor off and then jumping in the hole right at spawn in Ocean Glade. You will die of fall damage, and that will put us back in Freeport. Because we're about to go to the Elven Challenge. I said we wanted pearls, so once we finish up Slate Estate 2, then he's gonna warp to Ocean Glade, die, and then be back at Freeport, and then we'll have pearls again.
Unfortunately, when you die, to get back to Freeport, um, you lose your buffs, and yeah, you lose your buffs. So you end up basically needing like an extra potion. And I think I'm not sure how many potions I have, but okay, I have plenty of potions. But I have died and then just out of habit applied my buffs and then lost all my potions because I was on the last one. So at some point we're going to Ocean Glade. And just jumping in the pit that we actually used to get under the redstone earlier. This armor set has like resistance whatever, resistance 3 or something, and you have a ton of regen, so dying without disabling your or taking off your armor is um really hard, like almost impossible actually under normal circumstances. Uh without There's a few places with void, and that might be the fastest way with your armor on. So just disable the clock and getting these all these ender pearls, so we don't have to dupe them, waste time duping them. We already have like 3 stacks, and this will finish the warp to the Elven Challenge now, which is way on the eastern side of the map, and it's a really good excuse once the Elven Challenge is done to visit an area that is really out of the way.
Yeah, there's not really like if Elven Challenge wasn't here, routing in Sandcliff would be super awkward. But thankfully it is. And Sandcliff is one of those areas where you just have to talk to a couple people a bunch of times. There's like one reason to go there for oh dude, what's his? I'm about to name drop Nate Griffin. Yes, dude. He sends you out there to get some eggs, and that's like the only reason. I think that's the only like external reason to visit there.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, this
Um,
is Elven Challenge,
yeah,
and
just went into that house at the start and got a chest that had the helmet that I'm going to be using for the rest of the run, which is basically fully anti-knockback. And that's really useful for several parts. But this is a precise pearl throw to skip a ton of movement that would normally be required for this Elven Challenge. Lining up with the coordinates on F3 and throwing a pearl. That is uh, pretty precise, as in, like, you can't just you're not really close enough to just jump off and throw a pearl. You have to be on a specific you have to get on that tall birch tree that's at the right part of the islands and sort of use that because you are pretty far away from the Elven Challenge at that point. So, but that saves a bunch of time finishing the Elven Challenge, and then we're gonna have to return to the night at some point later. Not right now, but gonna talk to the knight later to finish the final night quest. Here's another ender chest, by the way. So depositing a few more things that aren't going to be required until the end, and then taking out most of the stuff that we had from earlier.
all right, so this is Sandcliff 1. If you need to take a bathroom break, just leave the video running. This is not a very interesting part of the run. We just need to talk to some people and get the eggs from Farmer Badger.
Should not have tried to kill the Enderman.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was about.
So these 2 quests here in Sandcliff, or one of them doesn't really count as Sandcliff technically, in game. Like internally, it's not counted as Sandcliff, but this one requires you to. It's another one of those where you get something from an NPC and then return, and he's like, Oh wait, I actually need something, another thing from exactly the same NPC. So, in order to avoid a third Sandcliff trip, we're just gonna finish that guy while we're here. But this estate manager quest right here does actually require 2 trips. You can't just finish them in like there's 2 sections like the other quest. There's 2 sections to this quest, and we bought a thing earlier in Fordingham that we can just give to the estate manager. But then we need something for a villager trade. And so we're required to visit the estate twice in the run.
It's like Farmer Badger just tripped and fell into the egg storage, so that's not good news for him.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for him. I kind of wonder if you could just accidentally throw the eggs like while right clicking and then not be able to finish the quest.
Almost certainly.
Probably. There's a lot of stuff like that. Impromptu pearl hang. I figured this would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
And it saves a bunch of time. So yeah, this is the compressor we're giving her that we got in Fordingham. Fordingham isn't required for anything else, I don't think. It's just this one niche quest or like one remote quest that requires going to this one out of the way location.
Okay, so this is where you would warp to the docks district through ISG, but
you don't have
you don't
it.
have to. Nope. So
Just
do you just run there?
just no just bog warp.
Yeah,
There's no way I ran here. There's no way I ran. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there you go. All right, figured it out. Okay. Yeah, the fastest thing to do here is just to use the stable near the royal warp.
Saving and quitting here for or closing the game here for I think the only time, because I was running out of RAM in game, and that was just at a certain point it becomes basically unplayable, and the game will just crash. So because my game was getting choppy, relaunching.
So this is Drobnovia 3 that's about to happen. This is a really good segment.
3 out
There's
of
a lot
5.
of really cool skips. Yes. There's a lot of really cool skips in Drop 3. So the first thing we're going to do is he's going to warp to the docks district. Well, actually, yeah, he's going to warp to the docks district, and we're going to talk to Hunter Target and run a quick errand. But then we're going to do dock skips, and these are really cool. So there are 2 quests that are like fine, and then 1 quest that is really lucky that we can skip. So one of them you just have to get a watch for this like guy. The other one, the reason that we can do Stormwall, actually never mind. We would have to talk to this guy in Drop 1 if we were only going to do Stormwall in 1 visit, because there's a guy there who sells note blocks, so we need to get for the church. But anyway, we're going to skip that too. But there's a quest that requires you to go, like you drink a bunch of alcohol, and then you end up needing to like go into this cave and kill this guy, and it takes a really long time. And we were looking for a skip for that quest for a while, because I mean it takes a long time, and it would be cool to be able to skip it. But there's no way to like directly enter the redstone underneath that quest. And so we thought it was impossible to do that for a long time, until Adam found a way to skip the church quest. And then we realized that those 3 quests are all connected underground if you just like clip through walls. So we're going to skip 3 docks quests all in a row just by doing the Reverend Pennington skip, which is also in and of itself a really cool skip. The clip is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
there's this was like the Olivia Wolf skip in the triangle earlier. Because there's a gap under the floor, you don't get clipped up uh, onto the surface when you continually purl through the wall. So you kind of just like purl like between. I mean, you'll see. You're like purling and then falling, and you kind of just keep doing this into adjacent tiles. Um, so yeah, pretty cool that you can do that. And then yeah, you just skip these three. I guess there's nothing else happening, huh?
No.
Um, I spent so much time earlier trying to get ISG again. Um, and I thought finally it worked, and it doesn't end up actually like being the glitch. Just look like it. Um, I think this is the final library book. I'm gonna get it this time, but not actually finish the librarian quest until next time. Um, finish up a treacherous marsh quest in here, an Alzir quest. We went to Savannah Refuge and got the quartermaster's sword earlier. And we just returned that to the quartermaster. That's one of the quests here. And then we'll be skipping the Cheese Society, which is also how we're gonna uh, like our excuse basically to return to Twin Ponds. Um, if you remember, our the fourth night is in Twin Ponds, and we are currently uh, not done anymore. We're we became unfinished with the night 4 quest, so I have to go re-trigger that. But since we already got the quest complete message for night 4, all we actually need is the correct scoreboard value. Um, we don't need to replay that cutscene again, which again would set the night 5 value to the wrong thing, and that would just be a nightmare. So
Yeah, and it's also pretty lucky that we can skip Cheese Society at all. It's a pretty long quest where you have to go get some goat. You pay a fee to join this the Cheese Society. You have to go get some goat cheese, and then you do the like member initiation ritual where you throw the cheese into a volcano, and that volcano happens to be the volcano right outside of Algier City. So we're gonna skip the quest, but we're still gonna go to the volcano and just jump down and do exactly the same movement that we did after Alzir 1 to reset our score to the proper value for night 4. So this is the Cheese Society skip here.
I wasn't paying too close
And
attention. Did you did you mention that Cheese Society also needs Freeport?
what does it need? Oh yeah,
Yeah, for
for
this
yeah
for
yeah.
this.
No, yeah,
you
I
need
forgot.
you need it for the
You need to wear a helmet, a leather helmet, as part of the ritual, and the check for that is in Freeport. So
No, no, no.
I totally forgot about that.
You don't get given the helmet unless Freeport's enabled, so you can't wear
Oh
it.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
such a dumb requirement that ends up needing Freeport. Again, this pro climb takes quite a few pearls, so it's good to dupe. I duped too much.
So the next several splits in a row are pretty much just going to be like cleanup for all the outstanding quests we still have in these areas. They're going to be pretty short, just like, talk to, a couple people and then leave and move on to the next area. Which is a nice change of pace from having to scroll through like 30 simultaneous dialogue sequences at the same time. So here he's just going to set the score to, the proper value, and then we're not going to talk to the knight. Because we don't want him to set our score for Knight 5 back to 1. So now we're all good on the knights. And we just need to clean up some stuff here in Twin Ponds and Treacherous Marsh.
North Pine 2 is also really boring. There's not much to it.
But buckle up, because in a couple splits, we're being the triangle again, and leaving the triangle is going to blow your mind. So get ready for that. Like you better put on a couple layers of socks. They're going to get knocked off.
So this is where we finish the 8th night, the 8th and final night, right here. And also just wrap up some other stuff in Winnis.
The 8th Knight also refers to Valleki as Grand Mage Valleki, which is just wrong.
So this is the last thing we need to do. This quest in Winnis. This redstone in Winnis affects a quest in the triangle. And we need this item for the triangle quest. So that's the last thing we need to do before the triangle 2. And then next up is Alzir. And there's just like clicking this sign. I don't know what. Oh yeah. Clicking that sign. The sign says press the button to open and close the gate. Like it's just a completely normal sign. For some reason, when you right click it, it warps you to outside the second night in Alzir. For no reason.
My guess for why that works is they were probably making the signs with some website that auto generates the give command, and they just left that
Oh,
teleport command in there by mistake while they were
yeah.
making that
Oh,
sign.
there is a sign that takes you there. The sign underneath Alzir for the night quest. That must be what it is. That they somehow the same sign that they were using, the same command that they were using to get that sign must have ended up being used for the triangle, which is just very weird. This is where that 5 salmon from the Alzir market's gonna pay off. This
Oh yeah,
is
this is Skykeep Village, which is nowhere near Skykeep.
it's very far from Skykeep. I was wrong. I thought it was gonna be like 40 minutes from when I said that, but it's only about 35 to get this raw salmon here. The guy wants you to go fishing and catch some salmon, which I have never done, but I'd imagine it's a disaster because obviously you can get stuff other than salmon when you fish. So you sit there and you need to get 5 salmon randomly from fishing, but you can just buy it from several villagers around Drobnovia. But we got it from the Alzir market. And then yeah, that other lady in Skykeep Village is the wife of someone in Alzir, and uh, he asked you to take money to her, and that's so you need to visit Skykeep and then finish that cutscene and um, do the rest of Alzir 2, including finishing up the shopkeeper, which we never really talked about. But that's a situation where I had to increase my render distance to make sure that the Skykeep Village redstone was still ticking for that cutscene. Um, and then talk to Kramik. Uh, like the blacksmith in North Pine, you get a weapon from him. You get a bow from this guy, Kramik Redshield. And that bow is useful. I have that one arrow in the inventory because this bow has infinity. And I'm going to end up using that for the final boss. Just so happens that we get a bow for one of the quests and nowhere else. Um, so luckily can get one of those before the final boss. It's not a huge deal, but it's good to have a bow. And this is where the RSVPs, the duplicated birthday invites, come into play.
Yeah, so after this, we're going to go to Hunting Lodge. And it's kind of arbitrarily put here because it really could be done like at any point, but it just makes sense to do it while we're already at Hot Springs. And yeah, so the Hunting Lodge is the only unseen network so far in this run. This lets, as I mentioned at the beginning, this lets you warp between Drobnovia City, out here in the middle of nowhere near Hot Springs, and the Jungle Hunting Lodge, which is near Restless Beach. And Restless Beach is a singleton area with, just one side quest, which we can skip thankfully because it's very long.
That's the longest. We're coming up on skipping the longest quest in the game, which is it's a cool quest. I enjoy it, but
It is one
it
of very few that has any production value.
it is
So,
many minutes long. So
but doing this now is pretty cool because one of the hunting lodges takes you to Drobnovia City. So after we do Restless Beach, we'll just take the hunting lodge warp into Drobnovia City, and that actually puts us right next to a place in Drobnovia City where we need to do a skip. So that's a pretty cool perk of doing this at this point in the route. But getting access to the hunting lodge warps requires that you talk to all of the hunting lodge owners and bring their signatures back to this guy. But we're gonna clip out, skip this quest, and then that'll give us access to the warps. The big plot twist is that you're actually getting the signatures to transfer ownership to him, so he owns all the hunting lodges. It's a big scheme. That's just some lore for you there. Okay, so now we're about to do Restless Beach. And it's like a pretty big town, actually. Like, they only put one quest here, and there's no, like... It's a very large town on the coast, and they put one side quest here, and it's
You,
horrible.
you
So,
also have to
thankfully...
you also have to come here for the Pankhurst quest. That was at the beginning of Fordingham. We skipped that. Um, but yeah, that one takes forever. Like I said, this quest is actually really cool. Uh, uh one someday when glitchless is routed, I'll have fun doing that quest in glitchless. But yeah, it's got some production value to it.
It has custom music, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Insane.
It's most of the custom sounds I think are in that quest.
All right, so the Drobnovian City Hunting Lodge is right by the prison, which is a curious place to put a hunting lodge, I guess. But we can we can skip the prison warden's quest. This also skips something that we would have had to do in Treacherous Marsh with stuff. I actually lied because we did. Wait, hold on, I'm confused.
No, it does skip the stuff in Treasure's Marsh.
Oh, you gave yourself that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we would have had to go kill a guy in Treacherous Marsh, but this skips that, as well as having to talk to him. There's also a Freeport trigger. You're supposed to like overhear prison guards talking about stuff outside before you can talk to him, but that only plays obviously if you have Freeport enabled. So
Yeah, it actually requires Freeport on the visit to Drobnovia City at the prison and Freeport on the visit to Treacherous Marsh. So you wouldn't have pearls for those segments. So it just ends up being slow. Um,
for some reason, this guy's house in Drobnovia City is like one of the places where they thought, yeah, this guy's house
yeah,
needs an ender chest.
this random part of Drop just has an ender chest.
And so we're going to get everything out of this, and we're not going to need any more inventory management for the rest of the run.
Potions. The two red potions. Oh no. Oh no. Yes. There we go. Solved. Tip, inventory management is like a little tight. You have like just enough space to do the whole run with those 3 ender chest visits.
Is there a reason we don't do stables cleanup before Drobnovia City 4? What do you need in Drob 4 for stables?
Um, um, good question. I don't know if it actually matters.
A 4-visit Drobnovia City visit route coming soon to a 100% near you, I guess. I mean, maybe it's slower. I don't know.
Why would that save a visit to?
Well, you would just do stables before Drop 4, and then like the next thing that happens after stables is you do Drop 5. So you could
Oh,
just do
maybe I'm dumb. I don't know.
combine them. Not the packed launch, dude.
Finally getting rid of everything in the inventory. All the 4 library books. Oh yeah, most of the map is like PG rated, I think. This quest involves this woman's daughter being kidnapped and sold into sexual slavery, which is just a really unusual twist
Yeah, it's like
for this
needlessly
map.
graphic
Yeah,
for
it's
this
weird.
map.
The rest of the map, yeah, the rest of the map is not warranted. I mean, it's not like a kid's Minecraft map, but it's
The rest of the quests are like, I need bread. Go get me bread.
fortunately we skip this the sex trafficking quest, so
Okay, now we're about to clean up Fordingham, which we started an hour and a half ago. You can believe it's already been that long. So yeah, it's just going to be talk to everybody in a straight line again.
just want to say Juicy Melons is the name of the quest.
Yeah, that's another PG-13 rated moment in the map.
Also, if you go back to the Alzir City Baths manager after talking to the plumber to finish the quest, she invites you to take a shower or a bath together because it's a bath.
Okay,
And
this
then
is
it
getting
says
more and more. I didn't know about that.
it says it describes her taking off her robe. Very
Oh yeah,
taken aback.
and the painting has this woman like
Yeah,
naked
the
on it or
painting
something.
has the woman. Uh, I wonder if there's like if you hang up I've never like placed the painting before. I guess I assumed it was just a random painting. I wonder what happens if you like place it somewhere.
Okay, we're finally about to do the final boss very soon, and I know you've been patiently waiting to find out what the final boss is, and I won't say what it is yet, but it's very impressive. They were able to pull it off. Um, a couple last things to do before we actually go fight Endergon. Um, we gotta skip the warehouse manager, which we actually enter his redstone through Grand Master Valecki's redstone. Gotta tell the Eighth Knight that he changed his name. So yeah, you can clip in here, and this lets you access the redstone for Valecki. And similar to how we skipped all those quests in the Docks District, the redstone for Warehouse Manager isn't directly accessible through a clip, above him or something like that. But we can just go through the wall there, and his redstone's right here. Um,
It's
it's
somewhere.
somewhere. The buttons are
It's
somewhere.
somewhere. There we go.
So this is actually a like pretty cool part of the route. The place that we need to go to fight Energon is actually in Slate Estate. So we have a forced visit to there, and we have to visit it 3 times for the stupid clothing quest. So this is a good time to just go take care of this.
This is one of my favorite splits. Slate 3. I don't know. The movement's sick. Ah.
Disaster.
The quest is called Don't Panic, by the way. Where you just go and buy his clothing for him. His
Pretty
jacket
nerve
and his
wracking.
caps. Yeah. This is the final area. This is like the maze that the Endergon's built sort of, I guess, as it's his base or some shit. I don't know what it is. It's an
There's
ancient
another
temple.
like mini boss in here somewhere too, but we
Yep,
don't
here's the
fight that.
final boss.
Yep.
Woo!
It's literally an unchanged Ender Dragon
It's the
fight
Ender
in
Dragon.
vanilla, and like it's literally just killing the Ender Dragon.
It's killing the Ender Dragon, but you have like a 13 damage diamond sword with strength 4, so it actually 2 taps the dragon, so it's not that bad. This is why I get the bow. Held onto the bow and 1 arrow is to manipulate the Ender Dragon. Because the Ender Dragon will charge at you. It'll select a new target when it takes damage. Uh, and so if it's not charging at you and you hit it with an arrow, it has a chance to charge at you, and you want it to charge at you so you can use your sword to hit its head. I wasn't gonna explain how the Ender Dragon works. I realized a lot of people only know how like new dragon works. All right, there we go.
Yeah, where are the beds?
Yeah, I don't know. Successful 1 cycle. Not actually in the portal. All right, so this takes us back to spawn, which is still at Freeport. And in order to finish the map, we need to enable the Freeport clock 1 more time and jump off into the water 1 more time due to the low frame rate. Don't need to save the pearls this time. Just gonna wait for the clock to re-trigger. And revisit City of the Dead. This is because the king is actually waiting. I should have gone to Drobnovian Knights. There's a mistake here, but it'll get rectified soon, and a pretty creative backup. I was proud of it. But the king is waiting for you to talk to you after you've beaten Endergon. And bonus points if you can figure out how they determine the name for Endergon. But the king waits for you there at Savannah Refuge. Just this random place. And so City of the Dead is actually just the fastest way to get there, that as far as we know. Run all the way here. And we can also clean up the blacksmith quest. And there's a gatekeeper in Savannah Refuge that has one of the last quests. Checking if I had ISG. I don't. I talked to the king. I realized that I didn't talk to Valecki, which is required. So you have to talk to Valecki and then go back to Savannah Refuge. And then clean up the last few quests and end the map. Should have increased my render distance more here, but So that last one, I believe, is going to be 88 on the scoreboard. This one's going to be 89. Gatekeeper should be 90. And then estate manager will be 91, I think. Or maybe gatekeeper won't increment the quest counter. I'm not sure.
There has to be a
There
better
has to
time
be
to
a better
do.
way. If with ISG, this is much faster. You just warp to
Oh,
docks and
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, this is just out of the way. And we have to do this basically at the end because that last slate visit to get the well, maybe there's something we could do, but the you deliver the letter at Slate Estate and then come back to basically say, yes, I delivered the letter. And because we delivered the letter right before Endergon, we kind of have to do this right after Endergon. And increase render distance to finish the King's dialogue from earlier. And the King is going to teleport us to our new home. He gifts us like a floating island for saving the kingdom. And that's Skykeep, and that's where the map ends.
The trigger for the final cutscene only plays if we have the Freeport clock enabled, which is
Why we
why we
it,
had to go back and do that.
Enabled it, yeah.
And this is actually Skykeep, which is not
Nowhere near Skykeep Village, yeah. All right, time.
GG.
And then all the lights show up. And yeah, that's it. That's it. All the lights showed up.
We did it.
Yep. GG. That's Drobnovian Knights. 100%. No down warps.